Happy Mushoku Sundays, everybody. Welcome back. We are at the finale of the first part of the second season. Yes, episode 12. It is over for now. Unfortunately, we have to wait until spring before we get more Mushoku Tensei. But I do have a remedy for people. I do have a cure for those folks that want to continue to get more Mushoku Tensei content that are anime onlys. I'm actually planning on doing regular week, maybe bi-weekly releases of skip content, because I'm now getting into this content, and so I'll have to go back to the first season and get everybody caught up on everything that's been skipped. And so if you've been enjoying my skip content videos, I'll be continuing to release them. I'm not sure if I'm going to have like 24 or something weeks of content to go through until the season comes back, but I do have a lot of stuff planned, like the whole true story of the Superds and Rajur that unfortunately the anime skipped. A lot of things like that I think will be a lot of fun. So if you've been enjoying my skip content videos, hang around. Hit that sub button. I have a playlist even made for it as well that you can keep track of, and whenever I release those videos, you guys can get them. So that's one cool thing. But additionally, if you're planning on getting into the novel series, I do a weekly Mushoku Mondays where I go through the novel series. Currently, we're beyond the second season, what they're going to adapt, but you can go back and get caught up on all that stuff. It's a lot of fun, great people there in the community and all that kind of stuff. So I'll give you two options that you have to keep yourself fed until it comes back. But yes, with all that said, let's get into my analysis of episode 12, the split core finale, as you can call it. Honestly, overall, really enjoyed the episode. I think it really did portray the whole situation really well. I think, honestly, there's certain aspects of this adaptation that I felt hit me harder than the novel series did, although there is some questionable aspects of it as well that I'll get into when we get into it. But yes, as per usual, this is my analysis as somebody that has read the novel series. I don't get into spoilers for the anime, just kind of give you guys context as to what has been skipped in the adaptation of it and give my thoughts on the episode overall. But with that said, let's jump into it. Opening up the episode, we kick up right where we left off with the last episode, having this situation with Rudius and Sylphie sitting there together. There's a lot of emphasis here that Rudius is being stunned by the fact that he never noticed this. How did I miss that this was Sylphie, my friend from back in the old days? There's an emphasis in the anime on this idea that, you know, it makes sense because they're so different. Fitz and Sylphie from back in the day are so different, so it makes sense that I never caught this. Mainly in the idea that Sylphie from back in Buena Village was so attached to me, yet Fitz is self-reliant. It's a good person, somebody that people can rely on. And so there is a difference in just personality alone. And he does kind of admit in the novel series that I sort of arranged it that way. There's a little bit of an inkling in the novel series way back then that Rudius was sort of creating that childhood friend character, the one that gets so attached to you and they have no desire to go to anybody else. He sort of arranged that way. He essentially in the end made her so reliant on him that she couldn't be so independent. But no, with Master Fitz, it's different. This is a person that they can find as a friend, an equal. He had a large amount of respect for her. And it's interesting because he even questions right here, is her feelings for me possibly those lingering effects of me pretty much brainwashing her as a kid to be that, you know, overly reliant childhood friend. But no, he trusted this new Sylphie, this Fitz, this person that's very reliable, this person that has knowledge. And he even acknowledged that Ariel, the princess, even puts her trust in Fitz. But in this moment where Sylphie's telling him that she loves him, this warm feeling is swelling up inside of his chest, and it makes him so happy that he feels like he wants to dance. But in that moment, he wonders, did I ever tell Eris that I love her? They talked about becoming a family, but he knew that Eris brought that up. Then he wondered about Sarah. No, he never went that far. He wasn't even sure if he loved Sarah. But then he wondered about Fitz, rather Sylphie. He wanted some time to think it over, double check his thoughts, work out a clear and precise answer for Sylphie. But if he didn't give an answer, she might disappear, just like Eris did. He found himself taking her by the shoulders and setting her arm's length away and said, I love you. That was the big cool thing here, is that this is an acknowledgement from Rudius' perspective, the inner conflict that he's having in this brief little moment. Yes, it's in the anime, it's mostly just, you know, Sylphie saying, I love you, and he goes, oh, why did I not catch this? And then he says, I love you too. But there's actually an inner conflict happening here with Rudius. He's really struggling over this idea of, okay, I need some time here, I need to think about this, but he always recalls back to here what kind of hurt him. Eris, she just left. If I do the same thing here, if I beat around the bush too much, and we're going to get into this again later on, Rudius has this fear of being abandoned. That's this whole aspect of his AD. He's afraid of breaking things. He's terrified to break. It's just like way back there when we had the whole situation with Elise, in in that one village where he goes to the brothel. This idea that he even brings up the idea of somebody I trust, somebody that I'm comfortable with, somebody that I'm not afraid of. Oh, there's Roxy, but no, I can't do that because that's the last thing I want to break. He's afraid of breaking relationships. He's afraid that if he sleeps with somebody, they're going to leave him. And so even right here, he has that fear. And he's wondering, do I love her? But I don't want to delay because she might leave either way. But yes, unfortunately, they go to make do and his tent collapses once again. They actually spent like an hour trying to figure out something, but then they finally had to give up. So again, it's kind of similar to previous situations. They don't go into the details about the fact that, yes, technically, just like with Sarah, they tried a bunch of things and nothing seems to work. After giving up, we get a little moment where Sylphie honestly believes it's her fault. I'm too petite, I'm too small, I don't have a chest, all that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that she believes is affecting Rudius. The unfortunate thing that came from Sylphie being with both Ariel and Luke is that Luke kept driving into these things into Sylphie's mind that what gray rats want. Gray rats want bodies. Gray rats want big racks. Gray rats, they're not... I'm personally not interested in Sylphie because she's too small. These things that kept pushing into Sylphie's mind, what she believes Rudius wants. That's what's kind of affecting her right now. She's apologizing to him. I'm sorry I'm so small. I'm sorry my body doesn't appeal to you. But this doesn't bother Rudius. Rudius right here is going, yes, she's small, and she's petite, but I'm kind of a fan of that. Like, Rudius is not a gray rat. As much as everybody wants to believe that Rudius is just like all the other gray rats, Rudius is not that way. He's just like, no, I actually kind of like that. He's got different tastes than everybody else in his entire family, and that's something that's not really known by Sylphie at this point. But no, he reveals to Sylphie, now look, I've been this way for like 3 years. You don't have to apologize. He apologizes. He gets out there and starts bowing, kowtowing in front of her, which she doesn't like. And I do like this because they do kind of hit it on the anime, but it is kind of this ongoing thing with Rudius. Rudius is way, way too formal with people. He's terrified of making the wrong person mad. And this is partly to do with because of the fact that he's Japanese, but it's also an aspect that's something that's been drilled into his head through his experiences. Similar with the whole situation with him right when he went to the North. This whole idea that I don't want to make the wrong person mad. He doesn't want to connect to people additionally. That's the main key thing. He doesn't want to connect to people. He keeps everybody at a distance by being overly formal with them, and so they can never get personal with him. He doesn't want to get personal with anybody because of what happened with Eris. He's afraid of getting close to somebody and them leaving him. So he always keeps people at an arm's length. And Sylphie's picking up on this. Stop being formal with me. Please don't apologize that way because it makes me feel like you're trying to keep me at a distance. And this is this kind of realization point for Rudius. Oh, that's right. Wait, does everybody feel that way? Yes, everybody feels that way, Rudius. Everybody feels like you're trying to push them away. And he acknowledged the idea that when he was with Soldat, he got a lot more casual with people. Like, okay, I'm getting connected with people. He's having fun. He's getting, he's knocking away that formality with everybody. He's not keeping people at a distance. But the moment that he hit the school, the moment he arrived at the university, he went back to his old ways. He's acknowledging that right here. I went back to my old ways of bowing and scraping. With Sylphie, it's different. Yes, technically back at Bueno Village, we were normal. We didn't have the formalities. We were having fun. But something changed. I did get a kick out of it, though. I did laugh out loud. I know I mentioned it in my whole Sylphie's Unhinged video. But yes, there was a skipped segment in the first season adaptation that, yeah, Sylphie attacked Paul. And unfortunately, the anime completely skipped it. And for some reason, they're bringing it up now. Sylphie's going, yeah, when you were taken away, I attacked Paul. But it does make sense. This is where it's kind of establishing why Sylphie changed so much when he left. Yes, that was the changing point. Because when Paul first took Rudius, threw him in that carriage, knocked him out, threw him in that carriage, yes, in the novel, Sylphie was showing up right when he was carrying him to the carriage. And Sylphie immediately attacked Paul. And Paul notes the idea that if I didn't deflect it, if I was a normal person, she would have killed me. That power behind that attack would have killed me. And yes, that is important to establish because that was the point which Sylphie said, I'm going to get stronger. She even tells her father-in-laws, I'm going to get stronger so I can protect Rudius. This isn't right. She was terrified. She wanted to protect him. And so that's why she drove to get stronger so that she didn't have to rely on Rudius. That's an important segment. And so it's good that it's finally acknowledging it. Again, it just doesn't make any sense because if you go back and watch the anime, when it got to that part, it's literally, okay, Ghislaine shows up, Paul knocks out Rudius, and then cut to pretty much Rudius is leaving. Which I guess technically that little segment of him being knocked out makes sense, but still, not everybody was standing around saying, hey, how's it going, Ghislaine? Long time no see. But anyways, yes, they finally brought it up. It's super funny. Same time, super scary that Paul nearly died. There's a little bit more added context here as we kind of go through what Sylphie's been going through this entire time. This is a nice little segment, I think, in the anime, showing them in different scenes, walking out together, because this is technically like a 3-day trip, getting back from the forest back to the town. So there's a lot of time for them to kind of talk through situations. Sylphie's obviously going to go through everything that she's done through now, like the fact that she got teleported, you know, met Ariel, became Ariel's guard, fought off assassins. There's a lot of emphasis here that she found the people, the pals, to be very different. Their ambitions and outlook made pretty much her stomach hurt. They had to deal with betrayals, deceptions, danger, all that kind of stuff until eventually they made it back to the university where they could make their plot for a comeback. And sadly, they kind of skip a lot of the context that Sylphie's giving here as to why she never revealed herself. She mentions the idea that she lacked courage, but very important, also that she liked the way things were. Being friends as fits, which Rudius agreed wasn't half bad. And this kind of gets into something that's been building up in her for a long time. What if I do reveal who I am and he doesn't recognize me and it kind of ruins the situation? I'm liking that I am Fitz and we're having so much fun together. Why break that? And there's a lot of emphasis from her perspective elsewhere that who cares if he doesn't know that I'm Sylphie from Buena Village? I can just build anew. Let's just be friends now. Why does it matter that I tell him who I was? But yeah, she got worried seeing him kind of hanging around with pretty girls, and that's when they enacted their plan, because he was too oblivious. Which Rudius kind of kicks himself in the idea of, I told myself I wasn't going to act like the clueless protagonist, but yet here I was. Now I can't make fun of these stupid visual novels with their clueless protagonists anymore because I was literally one of them. But yes, the other aspect here that she couldn't reveal her identity to Rudius is that, yes, because she thought that he'd forgotten her, there was a risk that if she revealed herself, he could turn out to be an enemy. Yes, there is still a lingering aspect here that she is serving Ariel and that the safety of Ariel is in her decisions. Rudius was connected to the Boreas family after all. He also gave no indication that he was searching for Sylphie, which to all this, Rudius couldn't really blame her. And this is where there's a little oddity here that the anime has always kind of done differently than the novel series. I've mentioned it before, but yes, technically the necklace that Sylphie made, she gave it to Lilia in order to send it off to Rudius as a gift for his birthday. And the displacement incident happened. Lilia had the box with her, so it went with her. And at some point, she gives it back to Rudius, but during the conversation, it's never mentioned who made the necklace. And Rudius assumed that Lilia made it for him. And so this whole time, he's been believing that. Even when Elise first meets him, she goes, oh, that's an interesting necklace. Who made that for you, an elf? And he's like, no, this is from Lilia, my maid. Is she an elf? No, she's not an elf. This is where it finally gets revealed. Sylphie acknowledges it and he's like, oh, so you made this. I didn't know that. I just assumed that Lilia gave it to me. Maybe it was from her. And Sylphie here says, oh, well, she probably didn't say because she assumed maybe that I was dead, which made sense to Rudius. This idea that he'd be carrying around a memento of a dead person probably would be uncomfortable. So at this point, he's thinking that Lilia didn't tell him because she assumed that Sylphie was dead, and it might break his heart. And this is where we get into Rudius kind of acknowledging that, yes, he kind of ran right into Sylphie's trap here, into the cave and everything, which Sylphie admits that it was pretty much Ariel's plan. Sylphie says that she was worried about this whole thing. She could never figure out what your objectives were, or what you were thinking. I don't think she had any idea you came here because of your problem. Yes, those rumors going around of his condition, but Rudius assumes that she pretty much dismissed them. Which, yes, the anime kind of skips it, but a while back, at some point, Lenny and Persenna blurted out loud that, yes, Rudius has a problem because he wasn't aroused when they were kidnapped by him. So they assumed that he had problems down there. And so at that point, he pretty much admits to everybody in the class that, yes, I have a problem. He was very open about it. But yes, hearing that Ariel helped out with the whole situation, he asks Sylphie, do you think I should join her after all? He honestly wanted to avoid getting mixed up in power struggles, but if it would help Sylphie, he'd offer whatever support he could. Sylphie admitted Princess Ariel had done a lot for me, so personally I'd be happy to have you at her side. But she knew that he didn't want to get mixed up in the Austrian politics. She said, don't force yourself, Rudius. Not telling him straight up, no, don't get involved, or not telling him straight up, yes, help Ariel out, but kind of giving him the option the same time not pushing him away from the situation. This was kind of a funny thing that I was kind of hoping they would cover in the anime, but yes, technically as they're traveling back again, 3 days travel here, at some point Rudius actually told Sylphie the story about Eris, how she abandoned him and traumatized him and making him unable to perform with women. Sylphie had learned about Eris while she was in the royal court, but she's awestruck in the idea that, according to Rudius, she wasn't the wild and violent girl that she heard about. Though, still, knowing what Eris caused problems with him, Sylphie wanted to give Eris a piece of her mind, but Rudius' face went white as a sheet, saying that probably wouldn't be a good idea. According to Rudius, she was a very skilled swordswoman. That was like one of those moments where it happens, you're like, yeah, I kind of wonder how that would go. Like Sylphie going after Eris and there's this fight breaking out. That's a very curious question. Who would win? Still, Sylphie said that it was a blessing that they broke up, though, because that's what led him here, so that they could meet, basically. Which made her wonder, wait, I thought he came here because he was studying the displacement incident. So she assumed that possibly there's two objectives here. In the end, Sylphie was happy the two of them were dating. She figured that Rudius would probably get weird looks because he'd be walking around with a boy, but they were in love. It didn't matter. Still, she was a little bit unsure because she thought that all boys thought love in a physical way. Even Luke told her at some point, if you're not sleeping together, then eventually you'll drift apart. With Rudius not interested in her body, she wondered what she was supposed to do. And that's when she goes to see Ariel and Luke, and they enact the new plan. The final plan, the final push, which there was a couple of aspects of this whole segment that I really, really love. Honestly, especially with like Luke, I never really got a sense of him being like this cool guy. I just figured he's a womanizer, running around, sleeping with women, always at Ariel's side, nothing really to him. There's a few little brief perspectives from Sylphie's side during this entire time at the university that we do get a sense that there's a lot of kinship and friendship between both Sylphie and Luke. They're very casual with each other. They're pretty much friends. I mean, technically, Sylphie has saved his life so many times. But this is where we kind of see that Luke is an understanding dude. Like, he is a man, and he does understand how terrible it would be for a man to be in Rudius' situation. And so it does kind of push him to kind of speak up. And I was like, I love this. Luke's best bro. Luke is getting up there. No, nowhere near Soldat's level, but he got bumped up there close to Soldat's level. But yes, Sylphie explains the whole situation, explaining how it was like a dream to her. Honestly, everything was the whole situation was great for Sylphie. She loved it. She finally got revealed. She finally got accepted by Rudius. Rudius recognized her. They had a fun little conversation about their whole time together and all this kind of stuff, reminiscing about old times. But sadly, in the end, it's kind of muddied by the fact that Rudius has this impotence problem. He has ED, which bugs Ariel in a sense. Like she's like, yeah, I heard about the rumors, but failing to perform when a girl went so far out of her way, how terrible. Which Luke corrects her on. Now, the important thing here is, yes, I mean, it's obvious that this is a bad thing that Luke is saying, you know, that's not right. You shouldn't have said that. It's Luke, for once, at least from Sylphie's perspective, of him ever correcting Ariel. This is just something he's never done before. Again, it kind of shows how much he's like, no, that was wrong. What Rudius is going through is kind of tragic. So he asks Sylphie, how dedicated are you? Because I have an option for you, but it's not going to make your whole dream scenario of the first time together very romantic. It's going to be rough. It's probably going to be painful. Are you that dedicated? And she's like, yep, okay, I'll be right back. Before then, though, yes, technically, as Luke is away, I did get a kick out of the fact, before I forget, yes, Luke running back to the student council room, seeing ZANOBA in the background practicing incantationless spells. And Lenny and Priscilla, they're going, you're too noisy. And Julie's over there going, yes, Fighto, go, master. It was super cute. But yes, while Luke is away, Ariel's trying to at least help a little bit. Like, okay, he's got an option there, but I'm going to give you a few pointers too, because obviously Ariel, being who she is, essentially, yes, as a member of the royal family, there is this expectation that eventually she'll be sent off to be wed. That's just how these political battles kind of happen, is that a lot of, you know, bonds and relationship with other countries and other groups will be through wedding off the females. And so, yes, she was trained from an early age to be able to perform. Not just perform, but to be able to win over, in the bed, essentially, somebody that may be either unwilling or somebody that is just not working. And so she does have all these methods initially that she wants to provide to Sylphie, But as Luke says when he comes back in, yeah, none of that's going to work. He's like, again, a gray rat doesn't find her attractive. But saying that you feel hot and taking down the shoulder of your shirt's not going to work in this cold weather. It was really hilarious. Who would say something like that in this frigid weather? And that's when we get the appearance of Luke Juice, as I joked about calling it in the Mushoku Monday's novel analysis, which, forewarning here, apparently caused a big fuss, even implying this idea that Luke Juice is a no-no for certain groups. But yes, Luke provides this aphrodisiac. And the whole idea behind this aphrodisiac is, yes, this is something that was kind of pointed out when Rudeus was back in Roa, this idea that this aphrodisiac that costs quite a penny at the time, I think it was like 5 gold or something like that. It was essentially something that was produced in the Fatoa region using petals of the Vatrius flower. Unfortunately, the method of producing this aphrodisiac from that was something that the mayor of Roa actually monopolized. So after the displacement incident happened, production ceased, and nobody knows how to make it anymore. So it is something that is extremely rare, extremely valuable. He bought 5 of these before the displacement incident. He used 2 of them himself, and he has 3 remaining. He was actually planning on holding on to them for in case an emergency happens and needs money. But no, because he's best bro, because Luke is best boy here in this situation, I don't really care for him overall, so far at least. But right here, Luke steps up. He defends Rudeus, you know, keeping him from being defamed and badmouthed because he's having this male problem that he can relate to. But additionally, providing something really expensive to help out his friend. He wants Sylphie to get through the situation. Now, it is kind of odd to think about this guy that obviously sleeps around a lot, possibly have used 2 of them. Makes you kind of wonder what kind of problems he's run into in the past. Maybe he had a nice big group of women and he wanted to make sure that he can get through all of it without any problems, because yes, this thing, it fires you up. And that's why he's making so many warnings to Sylphie, you know, make him drink this much of it. If you don't think you can keep up with them, take some of it yourself. He's making sure that she's fully acknowledging what this thing is going to do. It is going to make you go in overdrive. It is going to make Rudeus go in overdrive. And it's not going to be a very romantic situation. He's going to be going crazy. Something I kind of wish that she told Rudeus, but that didn't really matter to her. The important thing here was to get Rudeus fixed. Additionally, Ariel kind of stepping up there as well, trying to support as well, giving pretty much what money she has for that month. In the novel, they kind of note the idea that when they first arrived here, they're of course trying to secure finances for this comeback. They might possibly have a war in front of them, but they kept kind of spending money carelessly. So Luke and Ariel decided to kind of be very careful with their spending, kind of put it off to the side. And so this is very limited money that Ariel, even as a princess, is getting. So she wants to make sure that she uses it wisely, and so it does mean quite a bit for her to give this to Sylphie. But again, it's kind of a cute little moment here. We get quite a few little scenes with Sylphie, Ariel, and Luke, kind of showing the formed bonds that the 3 of them have over this long period of time. I've kind of mentioned it in previous Mushoku Sundays, this idea that, yes, technically, while at some point Ariel tries to push Sylphie away to go to Rudeus by saying that she's always been using them, that's not true here. These 3 have formed a really strong bond, which does show why Sylphie has been trying to help Ariel for so long. Why is she so devoted to Ariel? This is her friend. Yes, Sylphie here acknowledges the idea that they're united against her boyfriend ZD. So yes, Sylphie takes the money that she got and goes out and buys some expensive stuff, doesn't even know what it is. She's never drank before. And then she heads over to Rudeus's place, pretty much gives her prayers to her parents that she's going to become a woman now, goes in there, locks the door behind her. I don't even remember if that was in the novel series. I forgot to check that, but yeah, she locked the door behind her. They have a quick drink. Rudeus makes the cups himself. She acknowledges how skilled he is at making these really nice cups. She swigs down something without even thinking it because, again, she's never drank before, so Rudeus has to tell her about diluting the drink itself, which I kind of end one of those kind of missed opportunities here. Essentially, when she drinks it, she coughs it up, and he's like, "Oh, it's really strong, so most people dilute it." And she's like, "Nobody's ever told me that." And Reese gives her like an amused smile that ticks her off. I was like, it would be cool to have a little pouty face fits right here. But no, this whole idea of creating hot water is this idea that kind of starts getting them nostalgic. Reese's memories of the days in Buena Village were fuzzy, but this whole situation is kind of bringing it back. Despite them being the good old days, unfortunately, he knew that they could never go back to it. Buena Village was gone. The tree that they played next to was gone. Again, anime. Everything is gone. I've joked about this before, but it's like literally in the novel series, everything's gone. There's no trees, there's no house ruins and stuff like that the anime portrays, which, again, I kind of like the idea of him walking into his house and everything like that. Sylphie remembered those days of practicing magic with him without a care in the world, being excited about progressing their skills. Sadly, she acknowledges that these days, all she could think about with magic is how she could use it in battle. This is kind of one of those little sad realization points. The sad reality of how things have changed so much. Rudius over here reminiscing the days in Buena Village, but then realizing it's all gone. My house is gone. That tree's gone. The place that we used to play at is gone. We can't go back to that. As much as those days are so fond and how much you loved them so much, you can't go back. It's not even there. And then from Sylphie's perspective, acknowledging how much fun they had, but acknowledging also how this one thing that I loved doing with Rudius so much, us just learning magic, playing, and all that kind of stuff, we were so excited about learning how to shoot a spell off. Sadly, things have changed, and all I can think about whenever I think about magic now is, how can I use it to hurt somebody? It's no longer how can I use it and it's cool looking. That joy of discovery. It's now, how can it hurt somebody? How can it defeat my foe? That's the sad reality that's coming up here. But yes, that's when Sylphie brings out the medicine. I was kind of curious how they would portray this whole scene in the anime and if it would cause certain groups to get really upset. Because yes, she doesn't tell him what the medicine is. She just says it's medicine to help you. But in actuality, it's an aphrodisiac. It's something that's going to make him go into overdrive, and it's going to make him vicious in wanting to do it. So she's not completely clear as to what she's doing here. So there's a joke that could be made of the idea of, can some people get really mad because she's technically drugging him without telling him what it does? She didn't explain like how much he needs to take of it. She doesn't explain like any of the details about what it's going to do to him. She just says, oh yeah, it's medicine. It'll help cure you. But then she started taking off her clothes, so it's kind of obvious that perspective. In the novel, she says she thought about slipping into his drink, but she felt it would be a nasty trick. So at least she didn't do that. At least she didn't do like the whole date, I don't even want to say the word because you two will get mad at me. She also wasn't into calling it an aphrodisiac, as he might misunderstand. So she figured calling it medicine seemed like the best option. He swigged 2/3 of it without hesitation. She thought, wait, what if it was poison? Wait, I forgot to tell him how much to take. But yes, after she realizes that the liquor isn't helping me kind of get rid of this fear that I'm going to have with the situation, I'm not calming myself, I'm not having the courage I was looking for, she decides to swig the rest of it herself. And it burned her stomach, so she had to chase it with liquor, chase it with like 3 handfuls of nuts, and then another thing of liquor. It's just a goofy little scene. I think they kind of portrayed it pretty well in the anime. But yes, it kicks in, Rudius steps up, and the duty is performed. But then the next day comes. Now here's where, I don't know, maybe people won't be as conflicted as I think they will be, but I was kind of like, what are we doing in this next scene? So the scene opens up with Rudius waking up, really acknowledging, man, I went crazy. He looks around, Sylphie is not there. Now, for anime onlys, this might not seem important. And I think still, in my perspective, I think it still portrays the same message here. But essentially what they've been building up with Rudius's ED here is what initially happened. Rudius slept with Eris. The next day, she was gone. He thought that he destroyed that relationship. He did something wrong. She was not happy with how he performed. So he's always been afraid of performing because he's afraid of destroying relationships. Same thing happened with Sarah. He's afraid. He's always been afraid of destroying things by sleeping with people. And so what they've kind of established over this period of time is there's 2 elements here. Perform and then not destroy. That's the whole thing. So what Refugin here is trying to develop with the idea of what would fix Rudius is that he needs to have somebody that he trusts, somebody that he can sleep with, and that person doesn't leave him. So in the novel, it sort of does portray that idea that he wakes up in his room. The events of last night was very clear. The medicine was amazingly effective. He finally remembered that was an aphrodisiac that he'd seen in the city of Roa. Once it kicked in, he went in rampage mode. By the time it ended, he felt drained. Clearly, there was a reason that was sold for 10 golds. Again, 10 gold versus 100. But still, he found himself struggling to hold back a wave of fear and anxiety. He acted like a madman. He was really rough with Sylphie. She tried to keep up, but she was obviously in pain. But she never complained or asked him to slow down. She kept saying it's fine, it feels good. And she loved him on a loop. It was only his second time in a long time that he slept with someone, and he wasn't confident he did a good job. He was convinced that he was worse than he was when he did it the first time, even worse than he had behaved on that night. The morning after, Eris wasn't in the bed next to him. He's acknowledging right here, I've only done this twice, and I did a worse job now than I did the first time. And what happened the first time? Eris wasn't there. This morning, he slowly looks over. His eyes met someone else. Good morning, Rudy. Sylphie was there, smiling bashfully. It's building up that fear and anxiety. I screwed up last time. I'm going to screw up again. This is going to happen. Eris left me last time. I did a worse job than that last time. So she's obviously not going to be here. And he looks over and he sees Sylphie. But in the anime, he wakes up. Sylphie's not there. And he's panicking. He's building. And I think, again, the anime does portray this the same way, but not the same way. He is still anxiety filled that she is not here. I messed up again. Just like last time. But then, Sylphie walks in the door. And he's suddenly overcome with joy. She didn't leave me. She just had to go do guard duty. So she did come back. She's not leaving me. She didn't leave me a note and go run off somewhere else. She's still here. So it still says the same message, but the whole context of the novel is this idea of how important it was that he looks over and sees Sylphie. Because before, he looked over and did not see Eris. So you have to fix the situation by having... Symbolically is really all it is here, okay? Let's just be perfectly clear. Symbolically, it's just this idea that somebody was there, whereas before, somebody wasn't. So it still says the same message. It still portrays that anxiety. When I was watching the anime, I was assuming that what was happening was that he was walking around the room and just not seeing Sylphie there. She was there. He touches the bed and stuff, and it's like, he doesn't think she's there. But then he looks over again, and maybe she's there. That's what I was assuming they were going to do, but then she walks in the door. The whole idea of this fix, and I truly do believe this from a realist and romantic standpoint, I believe, honestly, and this caused a massive amount of controversy in my novel analysis, so I'll be perfectly honest there. I'm walking into this again, but maybe I didn't portray it well enough then because I was making too many Luke Juice jokes. The joke that I was saying is this idea that Sarah couldn't fix him, Elise couldn't fix him, Sylphie couldn't fix him, but Luke fixed him. It's a joke. Calm down. Anyways, I'm gonna get tons of dislikes. Maybe the anime only fans will be more accepting of my jokes. But anyways, the whole idea that Refugin has kind of created here is this concept of somebody being afraid of destroying things. So I felt truly that Refugin in this situation is trying to be a realist, but at the same time being romantic. That's how I feel that in most cases, what I've kind of felt in Rudius' character is I feel a lot of Refugin in him. This idea that Refugin is kind of a realist person and that he tries to keep things very grounded. That's why Rudius all the time doesn't like to accept certain things. He's very all about what I can see in front of me. What can I touch physically? And so what I felt here was that the reason why Refugin introduced the idea of the aphrodisiac is because Rudius needs something to push him. He needed something to get that engine going, force Rudius to get past that first blockade, which is this thing isn't working like I need it to work. Yes, Sylphie is slowly chipping away from that fear. He's comfortable enough with her and trusts her enough that that thing can get going, but he keeps getting afraid of using it. He's afraid of breaking what he's just built. Yes, that's the idea. He's comfortable with Sylphie, but he's afraid of breaking that comfort. He's afraid of breaking what he's built with Sylphie, so it never works. And then, again, Refugin being a realist here acknowledges I need something to push him past that barrier. That's why Luke brings up the aphrodisiac. That gets Rudius running so much that he can't stop himself. He even admits here, I couldn't keep past that fear. I was welling up fear inside of me even though I was going at it. He couldn't stop himself even though he was going to stop himself. The cure, in the end, is the fact that afterwards, after that crazy night, afterwards, she's still there. She didn't leave me. That's what cures him for the future. The aphrodisiac pushes him through that situation, gets him past that roadblock, and then afterwards, Sylphie shows him, I'm still here. I didn't go anywhere. Despite the fact that he hurt her and pushed her so much, and she accepted all that, she didn't leave him. That's the important thing. And yes, when he touches her, it kicks back up, and that proves him that it still works. I've been cured. But yes, Sylphie leaves, and Rudius acknowledges that she gave him something precious, her first time. Now, he would pledge his fidelity to her. He would do as she wished. However, Sylphie never voiced her feelings. He knew that she wanted him to stay with her, but she wouldn't say that explicitly. But again, this goes back to what I've said before, and this idea of how Sylphie, because of her persona, she doesn't really speak her mind much. She just kind of keeps everything to herself, which I assume is probably a product of being silent fits. Rudeus figured that was something to do with the fact that she was Ariel's bodyguard. He would have to ask Ariel. While in thought, Rudeus cut the bedsheet of its stain and placed it into a box that he made with earth magic. Then placed it inside his altar. Giving it a prayer, he finally felt human again. Yes, that altar that has Roxy's Ponsu, the holy relic, has just got a new roommate, which is a stained bedsheet from with his first time with Sylphie. Yes, Rudeus these are his pinnacle points of his life, and that's what makes Rudeus so freaking weird. After this, unfortunately, we have quite a bit of skipped content the day after, which I don't want to get into right now because there's a possibility they can open up the next season with this stuff, or the next part, next core. But yes, he technically goes to homeroom, he goes to see Nanahoshi, and then finally he goes to see Ariel. When he arrived, he knocked on the door and he could hear like a panic inside there. Everybody's clamoring around. We find out later on is that, yes, they were having lunch and she wanted to look dignified. So they put everything away, all the lunch away, and just stood there. And later on, Rudeus knows the fact that she has breadcrumbs on her lip. Ariel has breadcrumbs on her lips. It's really funny. But yes, he comes here to kind of pay respects to Ariel because Ariel helped him cure his illness. While he was avoiding political squabbles, with someone he cared about being involved, that changed everything. So he doesn't want to get involved with this battle, this conflict that Ariel's doing, but because Sylphie's involved, he can't stand by. Ariel and Luke look shocked. While Rudeus was saddened by Saros' execution, he had no fondness for the Notos family that his father ran away from, or the Boreas family. So he's acknowledging that despite the fact that I'm connected with the Notos through my father, technically, who fled them, despite the fact that I spent time with the Boreas family, despite the fact that the Boreas family did take care of him quite a while, I mean, he doesn't hate them, they treated him well, and he owed them a great debt. But it's not like he has some sort of allegiance to them. And yes, he does acknowledge the fact that, yes, Eris abandoned me was kind of crappy, but still. But Rudeus wasn't sure if he could help them because he thought that Master Luke hated him. Which Luke says, that's because you're a thick-headed idiot who doesn't understand how girls feel. Which Rudeus was like, yeah, true. He's like, yeah, true, technically. But Sylphie responded, and you're a piece of shit who toys with girls' feelings, Luke. I think it's like the first time that we really see like Sylphie just like blurt out like an insult at somebody. Again, typically Sylphie and Fitz is like so reserved and stuff. It's just like the very rare time that we see her just completely say something like this. It was super shocking. Rudeus was shocked about how comfortable they were with each other. They had spent more time together than Rudeus had. He was a bit jealous. But yes, Rudeus mentioned the fact that he's still looking for his family. Ariel's like, that's fine. You don't have to get involved with this whole situation until you've got that whole situation figured out. But she pushed him. What do you want to do, Rudeus? Now that you've gotten yourself fixed, are you just going to leave Sylphie? And he's like, no, I'll marry her. Rudeus acknowledged that it was fast. He probably should date for several months to get to know each other. Also, if they got married, he couldn't just take off at a moment's notice if he got an urgent letter from Paul. Still, he meant what he said. He thought back to Eris. Sylphie might leave him too if he beat around the bush once more. Instead of being clear and honest with his feelings, he couldn't take that again. He wanted to leave nothing to chance. Again, this is that sign that Rudeus is afraid that if I don't say something, if I don't grab her right now, if I don't put a ring on that, she's going to ditch me. She's going to leave me. I can't stand that again. I couldn't take that ever again. But he's also acknowledging the idea that if I do this, technically, I can't just leave Sylphie on a moment's notice if I get a letter from Paul. Again, still right now, he doesn't know where Paul is. He knows that Paul's going to go see Zenith. They know where she's at, so they're going to Begret Continent. But he doesn't know if suddenly he's going to receive a letter saying, you know, we still need help over here, or, yeah, we're still looking, we could use another hand. He's acknowledging that this is going to change his life. But at the same time, he was quick to it, yes, meaning what he says, but he doesn't want to lose this. Ariel then addresses Sylphiette Greyrat, who was in the room, asking her what she wants to do, which, yes, she wants to still serve Ariel, but also Rudeus. But what's kind of interesting here is this kind of addressing of what this sort of relationship that Rudeus will have with Ariel. She allows Sylphie to start dressing more like a woman. Now, Rudeus was afraid of this. He's thinking, well, without Master Fitz as a disguise, I mean, there's gonna be a problem here. Ariel says, in exchange, Rudius, I will make use of your name. There isn't a person around these parts who hasn't heard of you, and many may jump to their own conclusions once they've learned that I've handed you my right-hand woman. Rudius says, I'll be fine with serving you in official capacity as well. Rudius thought that he was fine with her making a definitive declaration about his loyalness, if not as a sympathizer to her cause, but rather as someone connected through Sylphie. But Ariel says, unnecessary. Your power is far too great for my hands to contain. And of course, if anything should happen to you, you're free to drop my name as well. Despite my current circumstances, the name of the second prince of the Asura Kingdom will prove useful to you. Which Rudius thought, yes, never hurt to have people in high places, even if she'd be calling for him if she ever made her move. And so, he became a part of Ariel's inner circle and engaged to Sylphie. This is sort of an interesting little segment here because it's kind of acknowledging this idea that, yes, for one, that Ariel does acknowledge that Rudius is very powerful. Somebody that she can't really contain herself. She's always been relying on Fitz and how there's a lot of mystery around the origins of Fitz themselves, and how, yes, Sylphie is extremely powerful. But even before that, I mentioned in the last episode's impressions, there was an emphasis on how Ariel was fearful of Rudius in a way. And the idea that if he wanted to, he could take them out. It was that whole conversation about the idea that Rudius is claiming that he's not interested in the battle and that he's not going to reveal the identity of Fitz. Ariel acknowledges that if he wanted to, he could take them out because she knew that he was powerful. This is the guy that took down a Demon King. So it's not as if Ariel is claiming that I control Rudius. I think that's sort of what she's claiming here. Your power is far too great for me to contain. Whereas with Fitz, there was a mystery around as to why she was controlling Fitz. She can't claim the same thing with Rudius. So it honestly makes sense that she makes the connection through Fitz or Sylphie. This idea that I can't control Rudius, so I can't claim to people that I can control him because they know his origins, they know how powerful he is, but nobody knows how I can control Fitz. So if I say that they're connected, it technically makes sense. But this is like that start of that relationship between the three of them. But anyways, very, very cool episode. And again, sad to see that we have a break before the next core, but it is what it is. So options here for y'all. On one end, hope to see you all whenever spring comes around and I do my impressions at that point, and I'll continue to do these types of videos for it. Additionally, again, if you want to and hang around, until then, I'll be doing regular drops of skipped content, mainly focused around the first season because I pretty much covered everything in the second season that was skipped, besides a couple other options. I might do a Sylphie side story part 0, which is technically between the moment that Rudius and Sylphie sleep together and this scene with Ariel. It basically just gives the whole rundown of everything that's been going on with Sylphie through the point that Rudius arrived there until now. So I might make a video on that whole situation, but yes, I'm going to be going through things like, the Superds and all this other stuff that's kind of been skipped. I also want to do a Lilia, all the context around Lilia and Paul. I think that'd be a great video to go through. Maybe even a video on Paul and everything they skipped with that. There's a lot of cool things that I can go through, and I'm hoping to do weekly or bi-weekly releases of those. And again, if you're into the novel series, every Monday I do Mushoku Mondays where I go through the novel series. Currently, we are beyond the second season, what they're going to adapt, so watch it at your own risk. But you can go back and check out the previous videos and see everything I covered with those ones. So either way, a lot of content to go through, a lot of stuff to make content for, and people have been very supportive of the content that I've been making for it, so I'm going to continue doing it. It's been a lot of fun, so I hope you guys will stick around for that stuff. But yes, until spring, thank you guys for dropping by. I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, hit that like button down below. Leave a comment. I greatly appreciate your guys' support. If you like this content and you want to support it more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate everybody's support. And y'all take care.